Zach Zucker of Stamptown fame. Welcome to Not Real Art.
Oh man, what an absolute pleasure to be here.
Man, I tell you what, I've been so excited about having you on because you made me laugh so much. And the other night when we saw the show, and I just, for me, some people love to cry, the whole, comedy, drama. My wife, she loves a good drama. She wants to cry. I'm like, why would you want to cry when you can laugh? You know?
I'm a big believer. I'd rather laugh from or cry from laughter than
Yes.
cry from cry.
Yes.
And I would
Yeah.
love to make people cry. But just kind of help them get those tears out the happy way, kind of squeeze them out through that fun filter. If I don't think that's anything anyone's ever said before, but I'm going to go on record as the first person to call laughing from crying out the fun filter.
Well, I think you hold the record for saying a lot of things that people have never said before, my friend.
And I want to deny those allegations straight off the bat. I did not say those things. They are reporting really rude and nasty things I said. Unless you find them funny, then I said all of those things.
exactly. Except none of the blame, all the credit. This is what
Exactly.
I'm talking about.
I'm glad we're on the same page. I guess that's really kind of the end of the interview. So it's been
Yeah.
great chatting with you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Well, man, I mean, like I'm just a curious guy. I mean, like my favorite people in the world have always been artists. I mean, I come from a musical family. And we weren't really into the performing arts per se or the visual arts per se or whatever. But coming up, I grew up outside Chicago, but lived in Chicago for a long time. Obviously, great comedy tradition in Chicago, right, with Second City and all this. But
Mhm.
um, and theater and
Of
visual
course.
arts and all that. But so artists are always my favorite people. So when I meet somebody or get the chance to see somebody in their element that makes me as happy as you made me when we saw Stamptown, I said, man, I just want to talk to this dude and hear his story because clearly you have a special gift and but also it's nature versus nurture, right? So like, sure, some of it's hardwired, some of it's just in you and it's got to come out. But I'm guessing, I'm wondering about your journey, coming to this place and quite frankly, what kind of environment you were able to nurture your talents. And by the way, where did you get the funny? Did it come from grandma? Did it come from dad? Did it come, like take us back to the origins of Zach Zucker.
Wow, we're getting the full Zucker treatment. So
Yes, the
yeah,
full
I mean,
Zuck.
we're going full Zucko mode right now. I love this question. I always love the question, and I have fun answering because I feel like it always changes, like the when did you know or did you always know type thing. And I think you can really frame it as like, of course, the signs were always there. Like I loved, growing up. I think of all the shows that I watched, and like I grew up watching things like Jackass and the Ali G Show and South Park and Whose Line Is It Anyway and shows like MXC, which were these like fake dubbed over reality show or game shows with like just really funny commentary and really stupid physical comedy, and and then I could say as well, like the way that I just was as a person. um I love to be, this may come as a surprise, but I love to be the center of attention. I love to talk. I love to be around people. I love to host parties, and I love to host. And I love to put on a night. And I know this sounds like classic, like wanky, like, oh, I don't do it for me, I do it for other people. But like, I hate having my own party, but I love throwing a party for someone else. And I feel like I've been able to kind of put that mentality into the shows. But as far as like, did I know I would get into this? I played sports my whole life. I never really got into performing until my junior year in high school, where I had to take a fine arts credit, and I heard that acting was easy and it was fun, and some of the other people who played sports
Yeah.
were like, "Oh yeah, it's like you kind of just like fuck around, and it's an easy A, and it'll help your GPA." And me being the student I was, where like if I wanted to apply myself, I was good, but most of the time I was challenging authority for no good reason other than to be like, I think you're full of shit. Uh, it was it was really nice for me, and coming from this more competitive sports background, I really responded when one of my teachers, this was the late Tim Conway, who was my first acting teacher. He was like, "Hey man, I know you're like a cool athlete or whatever, but there's a lot of really talented individuals in this class. So if you're gonna fuck around, you can get out right now." And I was like, "All right, let me commit my life to this." And I started, I did it my whole junior year. I didn't really think much of it, and then my senior year came around, and I still needed some more credits. So I was like, "All right, let's try this acting one more time." And I started to like it a bit more. And then I started. Someone suggested to me that I maybe go see some comedy because I obviously had comedic interests. And I remember going down to Second City when I was 17 years old back in 2010. Even though I am only 19 years old now in 2023, don't do the math. I am young. I am ready to be a star in Hollywood. Um, but I saw this show called, spoiler alert, Everybody Dies, and Tim Robinson was in it, and Sam Richardson, and Holly Laurent, and Katie Rich, Timothy Edward Mason, just Edward Blackman, like some of the most incredible performances I've ever seen in my life. And I signed up for teen improv class that night. And while I was in the middle of my basketball season, I was going to Second City on Sunday nights and Sunday afternoons, and I'd spend like 5-6 hours there just taking class. And by the time baseball season rolled around, and I was, like the captain of my team my senior year, and I was like getting like I was never gonna go, but I got like a letter from Harvard to play baseball, or like a letter of interest to be like, "Hey, come visit, let's talk about this." Um, but like I really only got that letter because I cheated on my ACT and I got a really good score, but I've got good eyes and I know how to game the system. So I copied off my friend next to me. So Joey Warish, if you're listening to this, thank you for letting me copy your entire test. I know
Shout
I
out,
framed it
Joey.
like I also studied and I was working on it with you. No, no, no. But thank you, Joey. Thank you, Joey. Thank you to the Warish family. But yeah, I ended up quitting my senior year to pursue acting, whatever that means. And I didn't end up really going to college. I just moved out to California when I was 18 years old. I moved out to LA. And my plan that I convinced my parents with was that I would go to Santa Monica College for, 1 or 2 years, transfer to USC or UCLA. That seemed like the most logical path I could convince
Sure.
them to let me go and do this. But in the back of my head, the whole time I knew, like, I'm not. This isn't for me. I want to go pursue this thing that I have no skill or experience or background in, and I'm going to move to the city where I know zero people and work in an industry that is famously extremely difficult and soul crushing. And I just went for it, and I can kind of trace every single moment back to, it was seeing Tim Robinson, taking the class, going to California. I eventually started taking my own acting classes where I would like take scene study classes on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I would take dance class and music class and voice lessons. I used to, this is an embarrassing one. I don't tell many people this. I used to street perform on the Santa Monica Promenade. I was guitar guy.
Yes. Wow. Ha! You were guitar guy.
Yeah, fully. I was guitar guy, and it's like all of the songs you think I would be playing. When I tell you I was playing them, I played them like no worse than nobody's ever played them before, you know. But I did my best. I did my best, and I didn't make much money. I always made back my permit. The permits were like $75, but I maybe made like a couple $100 every year. I only did it a few times. Um, but yeah, then I found my way towards this. I found this acting school that was kind of like a wanky professional acting program. I don't need to, shit on them or give them any more props, but I went to a boring school. And then in the middle of all that, I started interning at the UCB theater, and I was working there Saturday nights, just cleaning the toilets for free classes because I was so inspired by this. And one day our night manager, this wonderful woman named Gilly was like, "Hey, I work for this production company called 4x2 Films. It's Sacha Baron Cohen's company. They're looking for more interns. Would you like to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, duh, this guy's my hero."
Yeah.
And he, while this like interview was happening, or while these interviews were taking place for this new intern job, Sasha's teacher, this famous French clown teacher and theater deviser, Philippe Gaudier, came to Los Angeles in 2013 for the first and last time. It was his first time in 20 years that he'd been there, and I think it's his last time in America since. And I took the class because I was like, all right, me being a good little Jewish boy, let me like go take a workshop and network and have something to talk about when I have this interview. And I'll be like, I just studied with your teacher. And I got there and immediately I was just blown away. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, Philippe and his wife Michiko are the two funniest people I've ever had the pleasure of spending time with. And I just couldn't believe it. And I eventually got the job for Sasha. And about a few months in, I asked him, I was like, hey, I love to work here, but I would really love to go to this school. What do I do? And he was like, dude, go. And so I went. And, from
Yeah.
there, I've been traveling the world doing shows for the last 9.5 years.
Okay. 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 There is so much in there. I just
There's a
love,
lot.
I mean,
There's a lot in there.
there's a lot in there, and I guess I'll go back to the beginning in part because one of the things I always love it when I meet people, artists in particular, who have both sides of their brains going at the same time, right? So, because classically, right, stereotypically, artists are, they're not good at math or they're bad at business or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of jocks and athletes aren't artists and artists aren't athletes. I mean, the fact that you actually came up as an athlete um speaks explains a lot, I guess, now for me, because well, at the very surface, I mean, there's your comedy is in part very physical, and you're quick and you're sharp and you're very physical, you're moving around, and so that, I guess, that speaks to on a certain level the kind of the physicality or the athletic prowess that that you have in your physical body. But then that competitive spirit, right, that idea that you're a winner, you want to win, and you want to get out there and compete, and you want to and that drive that comes with wanting to compete and win. It's really, you're lucky, right, to be able to have both sides of your brain, so to
Oh, yeah.
speak, firing like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like as the years have gone on, where I was more like more classic hetero sports guy who really wants to win the game and go crazy. I've what I've kept from sports that I loved is like the discipline. I absolutely hated my basketball coach growing up. This guy, Coach Harris, who I thought was the biggest asshole in the world, and he was so
Fuck you,
rude to me for
Coach
no
Harris.
reason.
Fuck
And I
you.
hate that.
You're an asshole.
For real, man. He was so rude. He was so mean. He was just so mean to me all the time and would say
Yeah.
some really inappropriate stuff. But like basic. But one thing that I will give this motherfucker credit for was he taught us how to be disciplined. And he, I don't necessarily agree with the ways in which he did it, but
Right.
we, I feel like that competitive edge and discipline and humility that is needed in this business, and I think any business, and just being a good person and a good friend.
Yeah.
um I really take that from sports, and I think I've been able to shed the like like the result oriented competition. Like obviously
Mhm.
I personally believe I think I'm the funniest guy in the world, and I think I'm the funniest entertainer in the world, because if I don't, then who else will? And if you don't think that about yourself, well, then tell me who you think is, because I want to go watch that person. I want to learn from the best at all times and
Yes.
constantly get my mind blown and see how much more there is out there and how much I can aspire to achieve. And I think that never ending like engine inside of me is from sports, and
Mhm.
obviously the physical stuff that comes with it. Like, I do train, and I've started taking dance classes, and I work in a dance studio now because I just want to keep my body in shape and learn my instrument better so I can do things physically on stage that I know other people can't do, and create shapes and pictures and images and elicit feelings that others um, maybe don't have access to if they're not using their full body.
Mhm.
But what I've taken as I've like shed and kind of dropped some of these, like maybe I just think less, it's not that they're like negative, but just less helpful traits that come with some of the competitive sports background. I've been able to not care so much if you win or not, and just really focus on, I'm competitive about how much fun can I have. I want to have as much fun as I can possibly have at all times. And that's the whole root and the whole basis and the whole fuel for the art that we do, is if you're not having fun, for sure we the audience are not having fun. But if you're having fun and you're likable, well, then you're watchable. And then you can learn how to be funny later. But you got to be watchable. You got to enjoy the moments where it's hard. And, well, I'm sure we'll talk more about clown philosophy and theory and ideas later. But, one of the big fundamentals and the principles of clown is like, everyone's good at being good, but can you be good at being bad? And if you're then good at being bad, then there is no bad, and it's always good. And then it's impressive to watch you intentionally move through good and bad to achieve whatever comedic or theatrical point or position or experience you'd like to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I just loved about what I saw that night at Stamptown was, just and every audience is different, right? I mean, you're walking into a new room every night, or into meeting a new group of humans every night, and you don't know how they're going to react, right? But you have to bring it, and your fluffers, by the way, are fantastic. I mean, the fact that you've got, and I don't know who those guys were, but you've got, I call them fluffers, but you've got the pregame, right? Up there, those guys running around doing crazy fun stuff, and then you come out and do your bit. You start, and you're just so fully committed. I mean, you are absolutely owning the stage, owning your role, regardless of what is happening in the audience. And then, of course, at least the night that we were there, and I'm guessing this happens a lot, I mean, the audience eventually, if not sooner, catches your cold, right? Like you're like, it's contagious. I mean, you bring an energy and a passion and an ownership, to your art and to your instrument that, people with half a brain are going to have to recognize and respect and react to, in the moment. And so, yeah, just that level of ownership and commitment to the piece, to the part, to the character is just so evident. And, we could go, I mean, man, there's so much I want to talk about. One of the things that is so
Yeah,
impressive.
please, I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we'll talk. I definitely want to talk about Stamptown for sure. But I guess I just want to focus on you a little bit because of you as an artist. Because in the and I just met you that night, and I've read up on you a bit since then in preparation for today. But my sense is that you're incredibly prolific. And that's, I guess, most good artists are probably prolific or want to be prolific, but you just involved in so many things, even beyond Stamptown. I mean, Stamptown seems to be, really, it's award winning, you're international. It's kind of a tiger. It seems like you got a tiger by the tail a little bit with that, but you're involved in so many other things. I mean, are the other characters, the other programs or productions that you're developing, are they primarily your brainchilds, or are you collaborating with people? It's a mixture of things, I'm sure. But talk a little bit about
Yeah.
all of these things that you're involved in, because I mean, you're incredibly prolific.
Man, well, again, you guys, it's always lovely to hear someone else say the things that you think of yourself or say out loud, because it's always better when someone else says them and you don't have to say them for
Yeah,
yourselves,
exactly. Right. And you're not
But
paying me, for the record. I'm
I
not being
appreciate you
paid for
saying
this.
all this. Well, and I'm happy. I'm just here smiling, like, oh my god, this is I've not had somebody say something so nice to me in so long. I love this.
I don't know you that well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, look, give me the end of the hour, and you might be like, actually, I hate this guy, and you
I
put out a
take it
hit
back.
piece
I take
on
it all
me.
back, Zach.
It could be a really nasty. Yeah, I mean, like if it's with the company, or if it's an idea that I'm a part of, I think I've usually had some sort of uh like, I'm at the root of whatever the creative process is. Like, I'm the founder of Stamptown, the company. I created the and that's where like I produce right now. I mean, I've obviously have places where I want to take it and grow the company, which is where I think we're currently at now. And I'm like, you know, simultaneously the brokest I've ever been, and also I feel like we're like in the best position to succeed I've ever been.
Yeah.
I would just love all I want is resources to continue to make art. I don't care about the rest of the shit. Like I just want to make stuff and want to be able to make stuff with the people I love to make things with. And I guess currently, like what we do is I make I started Stamptown as a way to produce my own shows, and I also realized I love to produce other people. And a lot of my favorite artists are people who are I see more of a more of this dynamic in the music field where you have like artists who start their own labels and they sign artists with them and they kind of rise as like a collective, like a punk label or like a hip hop label. Those have been a lot of our um those are a lot of my personal inspirations and our group inspirations. um then then there's like, you know, again, there's just artists that I see who I kind of bring into the fold in the variety world, like some of the people that you saw on the nights with us or on the Stamptown night that you saw it, people like Britannic, who are good friends. They're doing art that I love. We had a conversation a few years ago about like, hey, I was just like, hey, I think you guys would really nail the Fringe. Like, I know this world. I've messed up every single way. I promise my plans are bulletproof because when you've fucked up as many times as we have, you start to know which way to go. That's our training. It's like we learn through mistakes, and you just
Yes.
got to roll with us and trust that and believe we can get through the other side. So it's like someone like Britannic, they're geniuses. They write their own shows. They don't need my help in any way. I think what we do is we provide them with, you know, the infrastructure to go out and do this, and we give them a little runway and just give them the framing device that they need for their thing to succeed. And then, you know, I think our biggest asset in my maybe my biggest way that I help or influence stuff is like we just create a collective that's fun and we create a good mood. My friend Vigo, um, who's Norwegian, he just won Britain's Got Talent this year. He's the funniest man in the world. He always says stuff like, we would joke if there's a good mood in the room or like you want to keep someone happy or make someone good, he would always go like, it's a good mood in the audience. And so we would say, you know, with Britannic, it's like you want to create a good mood in the audience between us, and all I got to do for them is just make them laugh, make sure they get paid on time, and like they just show up to do their show. They don't need the rest of it, but I think from being around us and hanging around us, our influence and our joie de vivre and like our mentality on life rubs off on people to be sillier and crazier and wilder. Like I've definitely seen them take a clownier step without going full clown. Like you don't need to go full clown, but that I think is as much or as look, people can take our influence as much or as little as they want, or our hand or help in any way, but like these are fully established individuals who need nothing from us other than the bare minimum. And I'm just like, oh, this is so easy to facilitate. Like this is a home run, and all you've got to do is just fill out the paperwork. And I'm like, well, yeah, obviously I'm going to do that. And then I get to bring these cool guys who I love and I love to hang out with and are my good friends and like to, you know, make cool stuff with me. And you know, that's like the other end of it. And then obviously if it's like my shows or the variety show, you know, I'm working on that all the time. And if people ask me for notes, like I'd try to create an environment where it's like, hey, I'm trusting you as the art, me as the producer, trust you as the artist to make whatever show you want to make. If you ask me questions or my thoughts, or you want notes or opinions about jokes, of course, we're love to collaborate. Everybody loves to help each other. It's a very selfless collab. It's never like, I wrote this joke for your show. It's like, dude, this is your show and I'm here to help you succeed. So if they want that, we'll do that. But also, I kind of just like to stay the fuck out of people's way. And the same way I want people to stay out of my way unless I'm asking for help, or someone who I trust is like, yo, I think you need help here. And then we trust each other so that when we do speak up or say things to each other this way, our influence, it doesn't feel like anyone's ever intruding or imposing their will on someone, but we're all really going towards the same goal of trying to help each other make the best possible show, whatever that is.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of, sort of connections back to your athletics and your sport life, because it feels like on a certain level, you're a coach, right? Trying to create the space for the team and your teammates to thrive and win and perform at their best. So on one hand, you're a coach, but on the other hand, it is this team spirit, right? Like that it feels like you're creating. It's like no, I'm trying to give these guys the space to just perform at their highest level. um and that's such an enlightened, beautiful thing, because artists can learn from sports, and vice versa. I'm reminded of the old saying, there is no I in team, but there is in dick and bitch. And so right. And so
I've never,
oh, you never heard that? uh
no, that was really good.
It's good, right? And that's what I loved about, one of the things I loved about Stamptown, is that it felt like I was watching a group of friends, or professional colleagues, whatever, who were completely singing from the same sheet music, and just sort of, all in it, all, connected in a collegial, communal way, that just, it just, the what is that saying about, like, the sum is greater than the parts, or whatever. It just was kind
Yeah,
of exponential.
totally. Man, I completely agree, and it's like I've been. It's cool to talk with someone more about this sports arts crossover, because one, I just feel like all sports would be way better if everybody was a bit more theatrical and like dramatic about it. Like I feel like to really sell a pump fake in basketball and give it your all and really commit to the character of a guy who's going to shoot a basketball and then to rip it away. And then I whatever. I think sports are so showy. I think theater is so athletic. Like it, whatever. I oof, I had what I felt was going to be like a genius idea, and it just has slipped out of my head. But but yeah, of course there's this parallel, between the two of these, and I feel like we are athletes, and the way that I look at the show is it's like a playbook. Where when I grew up, I'm a little Jewish boy from the suburbs of Chicago, a New York Jew who moved to the burbs, and on a team of all white Jewish kids, I'm the second tallest guy on the team, and I'm 6'1" in basketball shoes. So we are fundamentally sound. I know every position. I know every alternative play from every position. We have multiple series. We'd have blue series, white series, black series, gold series. You got your all different types of plays, and you got to know all your options. And it's like, this is ideally how I want this joke to go. This is ideally how I would like this piece to roll and work with this. But if this joke's not open here, well, then I'm going to run to this. And now switching from basketball to football, it's like
Right.
there is a Hail Mary joke that's on every play, and you can hit it if you want to. You just got to be able to stick that landing and catch that. And to me, it's become this through this training that I have with clown, where it's so much for the audience. Like the way that I see clown is like it's a humble. It's like you're on your knee, your head is bowed, and you're like looking up to the crowd, and it's like whatever you want is what I will do. And
Mm.
it's a mix of tricking them or making them think that they come up with the ideas that you can repeat, so you can give them a repeatable set or formula every night. It's listening to them, so turning your brain off and just listening with your gut impulsively to ride the rhythm of the room. I teach two clown workshops called Listen for Laughs and Read the Room, and it's just about like letting the audience tell you where to go. And if you if you know the playbook and you know the ins and outs of the playbook, and every press or blitz, you look at like a show going wrong as someone blitzing you, or you're getting a full court press, as long as you can stay calm and you know all the options, our job is to forget about it all and play and trust that I have all of it inside right here. And that I
Mm.
know that if I'm just listening and I'm just listening to really what's happening here, I never need to come up with what I need to do, because it's always coming right back from what's right in front of me in the room. And that like playbook mentality, I think, really bleeds into the way we play as an ensemble, because as you said, I fully believe this. We are some of the most talented individuals in the world on that stage when we get together, and we are as a group unstoppable when we are all playing in the way that we can, where we're all listening to each other and we trust each other and we respect each other. And you're not like, everyone's taking their moment when it's their moment, and everyone's playing with that athletic edge or that competitive athletic edge where it's like, I want to steal the show tonight. I want everyone to go out there and steal the show. I want everybody to be the funniest part of the show. And I want them to do it in the most selfless, respectful way possible. And when we play that way, where there's layers and layers and layers of running gags, and we've got 9, 10, 11, we've started seeing it more like solar systems these days, where it's like you've got your inner games really strong and you've got your outer games flying across, and you're like, man, I had 6 different jokes that I never thought were going to come back in here. And now all these different individuals are coming in and playing and hitting these jokes. To me, that creates this like, this like, it's like, when I don't know how much of a sports guy you are, but like when the Seattle Seahawks had these like a legion of the boom, like those epic teams they had, and they call like the audience, the crowd, like the 11th man or the 12th man, whatever it was. It's like, it really starts to feel like we're conjuring up the spirit of the theater, the way that, basketball players can get a hot hand, or you get this magic around you. And when we're all playing together, that feeling alone is worth, struggling every other day for the rest of the year leading up to being able to do that show again.
Yeah, I mean, because when I saw the show, because I mean, part of what you're hitting on, you're hitting on so many important things. This idea that there's a muscle memory to what you're doing, like to really be in the moment, right? You can't be thinking about what's going on. You've just got to be like almost empty brain, right? Like on some level,
Yeah.
because you just have to be
Oh
super
yeah.
present. And then it's about the muscle memory. It's like, okay, yeah, we have run these plays in practice so many times. Everyone knows not just their part, but everyone else's part. And and people know the alternative, the alternative plays. If this happens, then do that or whatever. And and you get that, you rehearse, you practice muscle memory, so that the night of the game, the night of the show, you're not thinking about that. And what I loved about the show, and I'm so glad we're talking about this, because there is absolutely, of course, I guess I know enough to know better, but even for myself, like I just would forget, of course, that you guys, that this wasn't the first night that you've been, like, you have been doing this for forever, but it sort of felt so fresh, like, oh my God, I'm seeing something completely impromptu, completely spontaneous. And
Yeah.
that was the freshness, right? And yet, of course, I know that, that's the professionalism, that's the preparation, that's the 10, 20, 30,000 hours, whatever. But that's the feeling in the audience. It's like, wow, I mean, they're just doing this on the fly, because that's what it
Yeah.
feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing is like I always with our shows, I want people to leave being like, is that the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, or is that guy a genius? You know? And I don't want you guys to know. I love leaving it in that suspense. I don't think it's important one way or another for a crowd to know what is or isn't planned. I
Right.
think, as always, what's most important is like it's the lie. It's fun. It's this is what I learned from my teacher Philippe as well, that I am very at odds with a lot of like American acting institutions, is this idea that acting is real. And it's like, no, it's not. It's the whole point is that it's fake. So when then people ask you to, I think it's vulgar to ask people to like conjure up horrible memories, or like if you're playing a character where God forbid they've experienced an assault and they're like, remember this time. It's like, dude, that's therapy, and that's like you're not a licensed professional. Fuck you. Don't ever ask anyone to do that. How about you lie and act about it? We have a special pleasure as humans when we are being a bad boy or a bad girl and you lie to somebody, and it's that twinkle in the eye, that spirit of life. That's
Yeah.
what you want to see. It's also so much more it's such a healthier approach to be like, okay, rather than like I'm gonna feel this horrible thing, it's like I'm gonna come at this from a place of pleasure, and I'm gonna have so much fun going out there tonight and breaking these people's hearts. Like, watch, I'm gonna pretend to break my heart right now, and you guys are gonna all, like, you're gonna fall for this. And and I think like the more people try to make this thing real, it's like, no, I'm coming after Daniel Day-Lewis, no offense, brother, but like, you can live as him all you want, but you're not Abraham Lincoln. Like, Abraham Lincoln's dead. you could like the fucking losers like Jared Leto who are like sending rats and like condoms to people because they're method in character. Like, dude, get a fucking hobby, man. Like, read a book. Go shoot some hoops. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, there's like funny games and pranks between casts and stuff, but like this whole like I'm in my character. It's like, dude, shut up. Like, you either can do it or you don't. And you can like I'm not Jack Tucker. If I want to, I can talk like this all of a sudden, and I'm doing the voice, and I feel like it. But I'm like doing a character that I'm very aware I'm doing a character of, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
but like it's yeah. I think I've said my piece with that part. But it's like it's just you just have fun with the like use what we have. There's no need to fight against
Right.
the nature here.
Well, and it's also hard enough, right? Like, don't make it any harder
Yeah,
than it needs to be, right? Like,
exactly.
right?
It's hard.
It's hard. I mean, yes, it's fun. It's our calling. We love it, but it's to do it well. It's just difficult, and it can be, so like, let's not make it any harder or difficult than it already is. Um, we're loving these sports connections. And we also, I thought you were born and raised in New York, but you actually are a Midwest Chicago guy, huh?
I was born in New York, and then I grew up in Chicago. I was in New York until I was like five ish,
Uh
and then
huh.
Chicago. I was there for like 13 years,
Okay.
Chicagoland area, and then I moved
Okay.
to LA when I was 18,
Uh huh.
and then France at 20. I was there till I was 22, and then I was touring the world nomadically with my comedy partners. I didn't have a permanent address from 2013 till 2020. It was the pandemic that made me. Um, get an address again. And then funny enough, when I came back home, I was started off the pandemic in London. I mean, we're jumping around a lot here, but then during the pandemic, started working at the Dodger Stadium COVID test site and then the COVID vaccine site. And I was one of the people that like ran the world's largest COVID vaccine site, which was pretty wild and crazy in itself.
Yeah, right, right. Well, so because so I grew up outside Chicago as well. So the Chicago connection, really resonates because you kept mentioning
Yeah,
Second City. And when I was living downtown, 'cause I'm a lot older than you, but when I was living downtown, I would go to Second City. I mean, that was the era of Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and all those guys. And then of course it was the Bulls, and Phil Jackson, right? And bringing it back around to like the sports analogy, like what was so great, one of the things that made the Bulls so great was Phil Jackson, of course. But and everyone wants to point to Michael Jordan, and of course MJ is MJ. But I think a lot of people that maybe don't know any better, well, don't appreciate the fact that Mike was there, long before the game started, doing, drills, layups, whatever, right? And it's that muscle memory, right? Because in the game, he doesn't want to be thinking about any of this. He's got to react, in the moment. And am I comparing you to Michael Jordan? I don't know, maybe.
I mean,
But
look, I'll take it. I'll absolutely
yeah,
take it.
but then Phil Jackson, right, famously, had the team, meditate, hold hands, meditate, and and clear their mind and get into the moment, and it's all of these principles. I just feel like are very prevalent in what you're doing and how you do your how you make your art and produce and what I felt and saw, at Stamptown. Um, Now the I'm horrible with names, and I forget now who all was with you that night. But to what extent does the lineup change night after night? Because I know you move around, you go to different cities, so it has to change. And maybe you have a couple people that travel with you. But talk a little bit about how your approach to the lineup in a given night in a given city.
Yeah, so great question. It's the short answer is it's always changing, and we have a wide database of Stamptown regulars that are strewn across New York, London, LA, Australia, India, New Zealand, South America. Really, we've got folks on on all continents. We're coming for Antarctica. We're not there yet.
Papua New
But
Guinea's coming
basically,
soon.
yeah, we're coming, dude. There's some really funny penguins who've got some great physical comedy routines down there. But basically, we've got a squad, and my dream show pulls a little bit of everybody. It
Yeah.
pulls from every market, and I'm thankful that these are the entertainment capitals, so people are frequently moving between the three of these, or
Mhm.
the main ones of New York, London, and LA, and then places like Edinburgh. When we're there for the Fringe, it's amazing because all of we've got all of these just like uh, amazing international folks at our disposal who are all there, and everyone's fully down. Again, they've bought into our triangle offense, if you will, and know the system and know the entire thing. Where it's like, hey, if my job is to come in here and throw elbows, box out, and get in the other team's best player's head and draw some fouls, like they're like, coach, with pleasure will I go and do this tonight. And that's like, again, the beauty of all the idiots that we work with is like, we'll get people who are, so everyone who's on the show is more than good enough to do a set on the show. But to me, the sets are the parts that I'm least interested in. It's all the action in between and all of the ways that we can weave it all together and play in those middle bits that I'm interested in making. It's that ensemble piece. So as far as like as people who we travel with, when I guess some examples, like when we did Montreal Just for Laughs this year, I was offered X amount of money for a show to do 4 nights of Stamptown. I then use that money to bring out somebody. The first person I always have to have is a technician, someone who can run the sound effects for the show. And I've got
Mhm.
about 4 people who can do it. Two who can do it really well, and two more who are on the way.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard, it's really hard, and that's like a
Yeah,
whole
by the
separate
way,
thing.
like let's not to interrupt you, but let's just, explain to the audience, like, the sound effects are key, man. The guy, that's one of the things that I was appreciating as well. Like, man, whoever's working the sound booth is on it. I mean, because they're, I mean, they really, they're on their mark, they're on their cue.
Yeah, that was the night that you saw it was my good friend Jeremy Elder. He's great. And so Johnny Woolley is the OG tech. He's a Canadian who lives in London. And we created the soundscape together for the actual Jack Tucker live show that I do
Mhm.
with Dylan Woodley, who is our usual pre-show entertainment, who I cannot wait for you to see next time we do this. Because his pre-show is that's the proper pre-show. And then it blends really well into the live show. Like it's funny because I've had to start from many beckonings from my manager to please stop telling people if I don't like a show when they come to it, and to just let them tell me that they like it and have me shut up. And like he's like, you could talk to me about this later, but just like stop telling people if you don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I just want them to know it can be better. And so, and it's no knock on everyone who's just in the show we did. The show that we did, most of the people were playing their roles on the sides for the first time. So it's
Mhm.
like I'm like kind of show running backstage as this is happening, and then also being like, hey, if you feel this moment again, or when this gunshot happens here and this person falls, I want you to peek out from the top and just notice how you feel there. And then
Mhm.
every time from now on, after you feel like, when you feel like that space or that impulse for that type of movement is there, uh, go for it, pop out, see what happens, show your face. Another thing we always tell them is like, leave while they love you, so you can come back for more.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than seeing somebody overstay their welcome after we've liked them, and then be like, actually, I hate this guy. Come out for 3 seconds, be hilarious, have them go, wait, what the hell just happened? And then come back again and again and again and again. And it's like, I know that doesn't fully, this is a different part from the question that you initially answered, like, who do I take with me? But, I always try and see who's available, and I try and find someone. It's like, okay, I would like to have one co-host character. I would like 1 or 2 people who can play the wings. I would like someone who does something that's maybe a bit shocking, or not like vulgar or grotesque just for the sake of it, unless we choose to, but like more something that's like, holy shit, I've never seen that before, because we know a lot of performers who can do that type of stuff. And like, can we pull some epic crazy name to do something really stupid would be my dream
Yeah.
scenario. Like the bigger the name, the less they do. I don't want like big name doing big thing. I want big person to be like a silent, like, the sticks, like, the clapper clapper guy for the show or something. And you're like, wait, is that Brad Pitt? You know what I mean? Like some stupid
Right.
shit like this.
Right.
And for
Right.
the record, Brad Pitt's done Stamptown hundreds of times.
Exactly. But who's counting?
Who's counting?
Well, yeah.
104.
but it isn't, one of the things that struck me about Stamptown is, I mean, obviously, even, it's in the copy. I mean, it's a variety show, but at its very base level. But it's sort of like this, like, because historically, right, variety show was very structured and very straightforward, and now we have a ventriloquist, and now we have a juggler, and now we have a singer or whatever, right? And then, but
Mhm.
then across town, at the underground theater, there was this avant-garde shit going on that was crazy and wacky and weird, and so on and so forth. And and all the cool kids went to maybe the avant-garde underground theater for the cutting edge shit, and then all of the squares, or the mom and dad went to the variety show or whatever. And what Stamptown, see, this is my assessment, but I mean, you tell me what you think, of course, and how wrong I am. But the idea that Stamptown brings this very avant-garde approach to the variety show. I mean, like, I just felt like, wow, am I in an underground theater doing like cutting edge avant garde shit? Or am I in a Hollywood theater seeing like a variety show? Well, the answer is both.
Oh, I mean, first off, please come with us to all of our upcoming pitch meetings. For the love of God, sounds like it rocks. um,
It does.
I
It
think the
has.
same. I'm like, I don't know. Again, I don't think I lack any confidence in um the product that we're putting out. Um, but I think forget. I'm very desensitized to all of this because I've seen a lot and I've done a lot on stage. And to me, what I appreciate is like people have said like avant garde, not to like fucking suck my own dick here and this stuff. It's like it's more just like trying to figure it out. But people have said like avant garde, or like people are like it's Dadaist in this way, and I'm like I don't think it's like that much. Like I like it to me. It's a lot of times I think of it as like pop punk. It's like it is rock and roll, and we
Yeah.
are like we want to have this punk rock, but I'm like we're much less screamo and more like it's 4 a.m. and I'm crying in the bathroom. Like it's like one of those ones where it's like it's fully accessible pop punk emo music, and like and like everybody can love it. Like, dude, our show is like we're exclusively inclusive. Like everyone is allowed to be there, and the only people we don't want there are people who don't want to be there. Like if you want to be there, then you're welcome. Just like don't like hackle the performance, so please, and just be kind, and also lose your fucking minds and have a great time. um but I think in the way that we approach stuff, we definitely come from this older vaudevillian approach, and it
Hmm.
has this clown anarchic, if you will, avant-garde
Hmm.
style to it, where I want it to like I want this to be engineered like a thrilling roller coaster where you don't again you're like, uh-oh, is this about to fall apart? But
Right.
it's all controlled chaos, and you can see the strings being pulled the entire time. There is no there we're not hiding that, and we only ever hide it for select jokes or like pull focus from it from jokes, but then it all rushes back to you and you're like, oh my god, obviously these idiots have been doing like they planned this the whole fucking time. Like how did I not see this? And
Right.
it's never like I'm not precious about people getting or not getting meaning, or like you know oh my god, what was the deeper point of this? It's like, no, again, I just want people to have fun and enjoy themselves and laugh and have a great time, and whatever we need to do to make that happen, we will. And our company motto, I always say, is like Stamptown is a collective of simps with tiny wieners and big hearts, and we're positive male role models for the youths. And that's all we want to be. We want to just encourage. I want every title of every show that we do, I want people to crack up having to say that out loud because they can't believe that's the name of an actual title of something that was made. I want them to laugh so hard when they try and explain something and and have the eventual reaction where you explain something from a Stamptown show and nobody laughs, and you're like, man, it is so funny that nobody is laughing at me telling this thing that I loved so much, because like that's part of what it means to be
Yes.
in this. You love something so much that people just don't get, and it's fucking hilarious and it's awesome. And then they come one time and it just takes one thing for them for it to click, and they're like, okay, now I see it.
Yeah. Well, we had that experience. I mean, our dear friend Rachel Ben David, who saw you, I guess it was London, she saw you, but she
I
was
couldn't
trying to
believe that
explain
either.
it.
I was playing it cool, but like, holy shit, that's was so nice and so amazing. And like, again, just I was blown away meeting all of you guys after the show. I just like I couldn't believe, I'm like a moron, dude. Yeah, I'm. It's wild. Anytime I go into every show being like, surely this is the last one that people come to. Like they're not gonna come back anymore, and then they keep coming back, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, like I don't want to stop, but like I don't know what to do with all of this. I hope someone pulls me the hell out of here and helps me figure this out and make this into something that I know it can be. But I'm like, I'm just shocked every time that anybody shows up and that they stay
Well,
and like it. Is a
that humility that you have, and that respect and gratitude, that you have is gonna, is a gift, and I think, as long as you can hang on to that humility and that shock, that sense of shock and awe that anyone showed up and that people keep coming back, like that you're just going to keep, bringing it, because, as soon as, right, you start to become, I don't know, jaded or arrogant or whatever it is, that's the kiss of death in my view. If for,
yeah.
for your humanity, if not for your art. But um
Oh yeah.
anyway, but yeah, Rachel, in explaining, she's like, oh my God, like you gotta see this. And she tried to explain it, and of course, as you just said, it's impossible to translate, in some ways. But
Yeah,
you know
this guy pretends to be James Bond, and you're like,
and,
okay. So then
exactly.
what?
And she just looked at me, and she knows me. She knows I'm down for whatever. Like, I don't give a shit. Like I'll
Yeah.
go. And she just says, "Scotty, just trust me. You're gonna love it." And and you just got to see it. I'm like, yeah. Let's go. And and so one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk to you about, because I was sort of interested in this, and this sort of harkens back to a conversation that a buddy of mine and I were having about a few years ago. We were talking about Eric Andre, the comic, and
Yes.
and uh and I'm Gen X. I'm 53, some lot older than you, but it's part of what we were talking about vis-a-vis Eric and his comedy style, um was this kind of frenetic nature, right? So like, you know, we were, my generation was born analog, and we saw the digital revolution come online, right? So I saw, not only did I see the internet, I saw cable television come on. I saw MTV be born. Then I saw the internet. Then I saw,
Mhm.
so we get to see this arc of the tech, right? Whereas, your generation was born digital, right? Like you came up with the internet and with things that we didn't. And so there is, and we're living in, and all the things about shorter attention spans, and we're drowning in content, and and then now of course we're living in the era of TikTok, and it's like, I call them
Oh
bite
yeah.
size entertainment.
Ruining my
And
brain.
right. And so there was this chaotic, so then we air the Eric Andre show. Like, one of the things that we loved about it was this chaotic, frenetic aesthetic. It was just like you didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if it was a generational thing. Like to what extent did millennials and Gen Z and now Gen Alpha, like do they respond to your aesthetic because it somehow connects to how their brains work, which of course was born, this digital era that we're living in. And we, it's hard to maybe we just, maybe the cool young kids these days don't maybe appreciate the long setup, and then the thing, and then the punchline, 5 minutes later. Like, you need to keep it moving. And so I was just, it's a theory, it's an idea. I'm just wondering what you think about that, and how did your upbringing, your youth, how does it inspire the comedy that you do, which has this chaotic kind of scrolling
Yeah.
like, aesthetic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously I am the poster child of undiagnosed ADD, ADHD, and every attention deficit problem of the 90s and early 2000s. My parents just like never wanted me on meds because they just didn't know anything about it. So I never got tested and stuff. And then years later, I'm like, oh, I really think I would have got a lot more done. And to this day, it would get a lot better. But yeah, I mean, I have a pretty, I'm a psycho, so I've got a pretty like, this is like my rhythm in my head at all times. Like it's, you know, it's always moving. And I feel like every opportunity should be a joke. So if I don't get a laugh in all 13 of those snaps that I just did, I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I'm bombing and I've blown this. And I
Right.
think what we try to do is I try to, without ever like, I don't think this panders to the new like TikTok scrolling compilation content market. But what I am keeping in mind is like, all right, people still, you can still access people and get people to watch movies and TV shows and watch live shows. It is obviously still possible. We all possess this. You just got to kind of shake it out of our fucking body a little bit. And I feel like what I try to do with the show is I just try to keep the rhythm of this going so that no act, ideally, acts are like 3 to 5 minutes long
Right.
is the best. You have an epic, like the conductor. You know, you get my buddy Amadeo who comes and does a 3 minute and 13-second bit, stupid physical bit, ends with a big dumb punchline, and we keep the show rocking.
So
Energy up. You're happy. You're so happy that that's over and that you loved it, and you're so excited that then we come back on, and then you're so excited to see the next thing. And
yep.
in between all of that, while it's moving fast, it's like, cool, I'm gonna do a 15-second chunk here, so I just keep it going, and I'll do my larger beat late, you know. And it's like you just got, people always say comedy's about timing, but to me it's all about rhythm. It's like you're all just, I see it a lot. Like I'm very inspired. I'm a huge hip hop fan. I grew up on hip hop, like all Jewish kids. I'm a hip hop sports boy, hip hop sports and comedy, and I'm very very inspired and passionate about music production, specifically like beat
Mhm.
production, and the ways in which they layer some of these like they're just like it's like a temple, some of these songs, the way that they can so delicately put together all these different sounds and know when to call them back and when to come up on a beat or down, or you throw in like a rest or just like a pause for a sec. And like that to me is those flares and those downbeats, or those like the rests that you build in. That's how you combat the rhythm of the attention span, like kind of
Mhm. Mhm.
not focusing so much. And you use these little things to keep pulling them back in. So it's like I might be doing a 7 minute joke about the same thing, but I'm going to pull you in with this little joke here. And then like 7 seconds later, a sound effect will come there. And then another 10 seconds later, this thing will come here. And then for the next 3 seconds, every half of a second, you have like a ding, 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 ding type thing. So it's just all these different ways to like keep them engaged. And I think a lot of the Andre stuff, it feels like it's such a sensory, and I love Eric Andre, man. I absolutely love Eric Andre. Uh, Everything that he's done, Tim and Eric, absolutely, that whole gang. Like we've worked with those folks. Like that's the golden ticket right there. But like it's such a sensory overload and such a I can't look away.
Yeah. Right.
And that I think is what we try to
Yes.
capture
Yes.
as well. And they do that with the way that they edit. The way that they edit is genius. Like people like Vic Berger and like Doug Pound, like these guys that like can edit those. Like I know my favorite edit in my head from the Andre show, and it's just like it's stupid. It gains your attention. It uses it hits on all of your senses with just you makes you feel stuff like really like really really viscerally. It's like you can you're seeing all these crazy visuals. You're getting additional like animation on top of live action, and then you're getting sounds and music and just a soundscape that's really rich and um like is invigorating the word, or like I mean I said visceral already, but it's like it elicits like a strong reaction, and I think then that pulls you in even harder, and now you're like, well, I can't look away. And once you hop on the ride, it's why would you want to get off? Like I feel like it's like almost it's like soothing to all the chaos that's around us. And I feel like art's obviously just an imitation of what's going on, and like we're in a pretty chaotic moment, and we have been for the last few years. And so I feel like art right now should be more absurd and abstract, because it is chaotic, and it's constantly feeling like everything's going to end, or it's the best thing, or it's the worst thing, or it's the last thing, or what's the next thing, or it's, it's like there's you think of just like how shows, a show can be in the zeitgeist so strong for 5 days, and then you just never hear about it ever again. So this constant like feeling like everyone's like, treading water or paddling. It's like, all right, well, if this is my moment to go and do this, then I'm going to give you every fucking thing I got, and I'm going to blast your face off, so you have no choice but to come back and do this again, or convince somebody to give us $1 million to keep doing it. It's one or the other.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you talked about in terms of saying, comedy is about rhythm, because, and that really resonates with me. Because one of there is such a rhythm to what you guys do, and the fact that you suck us in, with that rhythm and with the fast pace of it all, like you're compelled to not look away, right? You know what I mean? Like I feel like I can't look away. I'm gonna miss something, and I don't want to miss anything, because that last thing I saw was fucking awesome, and the thing before that was fucking awesome, and I know the next thing's probably gonna be fucking awesome. So I can't even go to the bathroom, and I really have to piss. So you know what? I'm just gonna sit here because I don't want to miss anything. you know,
Yep. Yep.
I
That's
love
how I feel. To me, I'm like, when I go to shows and stuff, I'm like, I'd rather piss my pants in my seat than miss this show, unless the show is terrible. That I'm like, Lord, get me out of there. But
yeah,
I hope that nobody leaves, and that's why I'm also like, to my team, I'm like, guys, let's keep this shit shorter. I want everyone to see this. Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want. But I also love that, when people do go to the bathroom, or people need to leave, it's like you make everything all part of it, so then they do feel part of it. And it's like we're never picking on people either. I don't really like that. I don't. I think, everyone's doing their best to get by all the time, and you don't know what people are going through. And unless someone's being like an overt asshole in the crowd, like, sure, lace them up, have some fun. But
yeah.
like, to just be antagonistic for the sake of it, I am not attracted to that at all, and that does not excite me artistically in any way.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I totally get that. And I will say that I don't know about you, but I'm a huge, talk about picking on audience members. I'm a huge Jeffrey Ross fan, right? And your roast master general, right? And
Yeah.
and I did so, but one of the highlights of my life as a comedy fan was one night I found myself at the Comedy Store, the second row was dead. It was like dead. It was like 30 people in the room, or what, I don't even know what was it. But for whatever reason, Jeff came in and did a set, right? And he was I was wearing, it was kind of a warm summer night. I was wearing my jeans, my black t-shirt, which is sort of my uniform, jeans and a black t-shirt, and I was wearing flip-flops, right? It was, like I said, it was a hot summer night. Anyway, Jeff comes on the stage, and he's like looking around, and he sees me, and then he looks me up and down. He sees my flip-flops, and oh my God, he roasted me for what felt like 10 minutes. It was probably 2 minutes, but I was feeling like I was being anointed by the comedy gods. And I was
Yeah.
laughing so hard that I think it was egging him on, because he knew I was game. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh, this
Yeah.
guy's down for it. So that was
Yeah.
awesome. I just love that.
And I would even say then, in that, it's like he is quote unquote making fun of you, but he's not. He's having fun with you, and that to me
Yes.
is fine. That I love. It's like when you know what the game. It's just establishing, and like different people have different ideas of what the word game means. Like, if you ask the
Yes.
UCB improvisers, the game is the game of the scene, versus like, to me, it's like, from a clown background, like a game is like, it's not like there's a specific game of the scene. There's just like multiple games that can be happening throughout the performance. And it's like, if this guy's game is, hey, I'm gonna make fun of you because I roast people funny, well, everyone knows what they're expecting. It's not like a shock, or it's not like an unwanted
Right.
hit on somebody like that. I love to do stuff. I mean, even like with us, we roast each other on the show all the time. Like, you
Yes.
think of the Britannic
Yes.
boys coming out there, with that SNL bit where they play my Saturday Night Live audition tape. That, for those listening, you send in a tape, and it's like, you only send that to your closest friends, because it is the cringiest thing you could ever make in your life. It's never funny, it's really embarrassing,
Yeah.
and it's also really important. And you want to do well, and you take it really seriously. So it's this thing that you really care a lot about, but you're also embarrassed about. and you don't want anyone to know, but you also want everyone's feedback. And I sent this to a few of my friends who were writers on the show and are really funny, and I love these guys. And we've started doing a bit where they say that they're doing this without my permission, but they start playing the worst parts of my tape, and it's all the impressions that, like, when I made it to the next round, I was asked not to do. They're like, yeah, maybe like stays away from those ones, and I was like, yeah, of course. I'm not really an impressionist, and so we have my two buddies, Brian and Nick, roasting me about this. And then Brian, I think, said the line, which was like, gee, I wonder why Lauren didn't want that one. And then everyone cracks up because there's making fun of the host, who's been me fucking with them at this point. And then Natalie comes back on stage and goes, wait, didn't you guys get fired by SNL? And then it's like, then they get hit out at, and then it's all of us yelling at each other. And then the floodgates open, and the dancing cowboy comes back, and then the two, stagehands come back, and then another naked guy comes back, and it's like, and now you've just opened the door to, again, this group play where we're all effectively doing a touchdown celebration, and we haven't even scored a touchdown yet. We score. We're celebrating for just being on the field.
Love it. Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true. I can't believe we've already been talking for over an hour. It's incredible. It
I know.
feels
I,
like
I
five
was also
minutes.
like, have I given you anything of value at all? Have I said anything that's
No, no, not
helpful?
at all. We have to keep talking.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm
maybe you'll salvage this, Zach.
please. I'll do my best.
Pressure's on. But if you could hang for a few more minutes,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely, I can.
I'm really curious to hear shift gears a little bit because you got into art and performance to be a performing artist, not necessarily to be a business owner, entrepreneur, producer. I mean, you own a company, you're running a business, international. I'm assuming you're dealing with a lot of money, you're dealing with a lot of egos, you're dealing with a lot of moving parts. You're running a business, and you're a businessman. And so talk little bit about that, because it comes with the territory, right? It's the necessary evil, so to speak, to do to do what you do. Obviously, I'm guessing you don't do it alone. You probably have wonderful colleagues and support, or maybe you do a lot of it by yourself. But talk a little bit about the struggle. The struggle is real, running a business, even in the best of circumstances, let alone as an artist, and you want to just make the art and let somebody else handle the business. Obviously, you've mentioned your manager, trying to save you from yourself.
Yeah,
Zach, just say thank you. Just say thank you. That's all you have to say.
all
Um,
I got to do.
but talk about the ups and downs and the realities of being an artist slash business owner, and some of the challenges and what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always had a very, like, I'm going to take matters into my own hands attitude and approach towards life. Like, from when I was young with teachers, it's like, if I didn't feel like this teacher was in it for the right reasons, or they were like not they were not did not have our best interests in mind, well, then I was a fucking nightmare. And I was not like a torturous student, but I would just be like, I would call people out on bullshit, because I feel like there's a way to do everything, and I always want to figure out how to do it. And I never thought that I never in my mind thought that I would get into this. Like, I didn't know what producing meant even after I started doing it. I just, like, said I was doing it. And it's funny, if you look back at my life, like, doing admin was never my strong suit. Like, I waited to do all of my college applications to the last minute. Like, I always did all of my work last minute. I was a big procrastinator. And I really only started doing it because when we started touring as Zach and Vigo's English second language, and he spells cookie Kooki, so he wasn't going to be the one filling out our applications and our tax forms. And Johnny from Canada is lazy and didn't want to do it, so it was up to me if we wanted to
Canadian.
do it. And I was like, well, I guess lean on the young enthusiastic American who's willing to do whatever it takes to make it work. The unfunny guy who wants to make the show with the funny guys. And it's really hard. It is just me, at least full time. I am very thankful and lucky that when we do the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, I'm able to hire my friend Michaela Drummond, she's an amazing producer, and just her business mind is second to none. She also, funny enough, is a pilot and is currently working in, like, Scottish like airspace. for like international like law for airspace and shit. And so she's like my number one. I also run it with Dylan Woodley. Dylan is my comedy partner from Canada as well, from Dylan Brand, and he runs Dylan Brand, which Dylan Brand's a premium lifestyle experience solutions company. Now I know what you're thinking. It sounds like a pyramid scheme. It's not. It's a premium triangle. Now, more on that later. But yeah, it's really hard, because if I Zach Zucker, the entity or the entertainer, don't make money, be it as a teacher, as an actor, as a writer, as a performer, as a comedian, as a producer, the company makes no money. But the company can make money, and I don't make money, if that makes
Right.
sense. Like, because
Oh,
I have to
totally.
then go
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
everybody else, and
yeah.
and I've really, for better or for worse, again, not to make myself a martyr, because like I suck with money as well, and like I've forgotten to pay people or just taken too long because I haven't had money, because again, I'm a moron. Like I think I'm really good. I think I'm a really good entrepreneur, but I'm not the best businessman. If that sense it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I'm good in the chaos, and I'm good as things are taking shape. But once they need to take shape and maintain, I think it's better to pass that on. But I don't have the funds, unfortunately. I think we're at a point with the company where I would really like to grow, and I have all the ways that I would like to grow as a live production company, where we're touring internationally beyond just the shows that I have the capacity to do myself, and we have infrastructure to tour the United States and all over Europe, Australia, Asia. Um, and it's kind of the markets that we've mainly been in. I would love to be filming specials and helping pull some of the great work from the live scene and put it to a larger audience, especially to introduce that to a larger American and international crowd, because I think our work, we've proven we can. Like I did Jack Tucker in India. You know what I mean? Like I called myself Jack Tuk Tuk. It was awesome. People loved it, and and like and it was so good. It was like making jokes about Joe Rogan and Rogan Josh, and like mixing up all the stuff. Like, dude, it's you put you put a universal game anywhere and it'll work. And then we'd love to like go more. I'd love to run my own festival one day. I would love to potentially run venues. I want to take the show to Broadway. I want to make our own film and television. We have all of our ideas. We want to film the TV. Like there's so much that we want to do. And unfortunately, I'm still like, I do all of our website edits, and I do all of our taxes, and I do all of our merch orders, and I coordinate all of our design, and I do all of our international visas. Like, I'm thankful that I am read, and I'm able to do all of this. But the unfortunate part is then that takes away from a lot of the creative that I would love to be doing. And I know that I can do all of this, and I will continue to plug the gaps until I don't have to. But I am not desperately in that I am desperate, but we are like desperately looking for uh not that we need someone to come save us, but like I just need to I have to go book a big job, and then my first thing I'm going to do is hire some people to run the company. And so probably I'll like as our venues increase and the money that we make increases, our costs triple that. So we're
Right.
still always making the same amount of money, which is hard. And it is, you don't get into clowning to get rich. Like you do it because you love it, and there's really nothing else that you can do. And I
Mm.
can't see myself doing anything else, and I don't want to do anything else. Um, and so it's kind of just this like, all right, well, that's where the discipline comes back in, and it's
Mhm.
that luck meets opportunity, and
Yeah.
or preparation meets
Preparation.
opportunity with luck. Yeah, and I believe, and I think my friends always say I'm the right level of like confident and delusional, and I believe in people, and I feel like I am so thankful for the amount that people have given me and how much they've been willing to buy into this team first mentality when they don't have to, and they give so much time to this. And I pay everybody for shows. Like nobody ever doesn't get paid for shows, and like I obviously would like to walk away with more than I do a lot of the times, but
Yep.
again, I'd rather keep everyone happy and keep them coming back so we can do this and hit whatever that next ultimate level is, than to like try and cash out on one individual show, because that's how you lose the goodwill. And like whether
And
it's audience
yeah.
members, whether it's artists, whether it's staying with people, like we have only survived off the goodwill of people.
What you're hitting on is really, really powerful because just a personal story real quick. So, one of the things that we, as I was saying before the podcast, our company, my company exists to help artists tell their stories and promote their work, period. And and our roots are in visual art, but we do performing arts as well. And I particularly like to find opportunities to help artists who are generally not respected, or they're exploited or whatever, right? And how do we change how do we change that, like how do we do it better, right? And so I met a LA comic, and I love comedy. I go to clubs all the time, but I was not aware of how exploited and how beat up comics are. The fact
Oh
that
yeah.
comics have to and I didn't know this, but like sometimes not only do comics have to pay sometimes to pay to perform, but they don't even fucking get their drinks comped. And I'm like,
No.
what the fuck is that about, right? So we did this thing. We started a colleague of mine who's a comic. She was telling me all this, and I said, God damn it. I said, let's do something. So we ended up, last year, on 420, April 20, 420, we ended up doing this thing called, over at the Comedy Chateau. We did this thing called Comedy 420. It's four comics doing 20 minutes. And, we paid each comic $250. And man, you would have thought that we hung the moon. Like
Yeah.
they got 20 minutes, which comics never get, right? And then rarely, right? And then we were paying them $250.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable to me how grateful they were, because we were just trying to show them some respect and give them a space to just be their best and whatever. And so the idea that, when you talk about, well, you always pay your people and da da da, like that's like in the goodwill and everything, like it doesn't
Yeah.
take much. It doesn't fucking take
Oh.
much.
No, and that's the bummer too, is, and I feel like I've been, and I love this about myself, very much like the fucking union leader with dealing with venues to get fair deals. Like I have a reputation for being a tough negotiator, and it's like, if which I love, and I also don't even think is warranted, because I'm literally negotiating for fucking bare minimum, dude. Like these people don't understand, like when a venue has a bar, it's just, first off, like I don't I don't accept any fucking bullshit deals if you have a bar, because one, I know my crowd is drinking, and I know there's going to be a lot of them, and they're going to stay all night, and they're going to party, and you're going to make a lot of money. Me, with our shows, I don't pay anybody less than $100, because even though we have other costs like design, and I bring my own sound and lighting guys, and half the time I'm flying my people out as well, and I'm
Yep.
paying for people to film the shows, like it sucks, because I do have way more cost than just what a normal stand-up night would be if I have four stand-ups and that's all you're doing, like then there's all the costs and all the other shit that I don't even factor into the budget, because I'm like, oh yeah, let me just go buy $100 worth of silly buzzer hands before a show, because it would be funny to do that. But then, like, yeah, I just feel like where we're now doing shows where we're getting 200 to 300 people a time, it's, rather than paying them $20, like it's more insulting to pay them $20 than to pay them nothing at that point. So I think we do
100%.
owe it to them to pay them, even if they're doing a 3-minute bit. It's like, dude, you are contributing to all these people here, and ultimately that's 5 tickets worth. And if I sell 5 tickets, I've paid for this person. The question is then, it's like, how do I grow the audience and play bigger rooms? And then as we do that, I try to do, like, if we make, if we make under like $3,000, everyone gets paid 100. If it's over $3,000, it's 150. If it's over 4, it's like 200. So I keep scaling up with that. And when we do get these bigger gigs, like when you guys put on your 420 for 420 shows, like we've gotten some shows where we've gotten buyouts to play specific cities where I can pay people $1,000 for one show, because that's how much the venue's offering or the charity's offering. And it's like, yo, please, I would love to pay you $1,000. Like that, I want to be able to give these gigs back. It's just hard sometimes when you could sell out. Like we did a show in London where I sold out a 400 seater at 25-pound tickets we grossed 8,000 pounds, which is over 10 grand.
Yeah.
And we were on a 70-30 split. And somehow after all of the costs, I'm walking away with 40% before I even pay off any of my costs. And I'm like, how the fuck how do I have 3,500 pounds? And then how am I walking away? How am I going to walk away with like 10% of this at the end? Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand where all these costs come from. And then the venues charge you up and they charge you for all these things that you didn't use. Or like, oh, I have to just give you 20% because I'm selling my merch that I bought and I paid my own person to run. And it's like, what the fuck is, like, what is this, dude? How do you survive? Like, and
Yeah.
how can you look at us and how can you look at people and do that? That shit to me, I also just, I have no respect for, and I don't understand. And then the only people that lose are the people who run the shows. Because now I don't have a venue I can go do a show at because I can bring 400 people somewhere who are going to make you 10 grand on the bar, and I can't walk away with $1,000 from this thing. And it's a lot of work. Like, it's a lot
Yeah.
of work to do all this, and it's a lot of work for one person to produce it. But then also
Mhm.
I'm hosting it and I'm running it and
Right.
I'm doing all the you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot.
Well, and what's the you use the phrase goodwill. I mean, what's the goodwill? What's the goodwill worth that you're building for that brand, for that venue, right? So when you bring your goodness to a venue, and 400 people show up, and people are buying drinks, they're having a great time, that creates a halo effect for the venue, right? Like, the venue
Yeah,
benefits, right? The venue gets a reputation for being like, oh yeah, they do great shows. Well, no, you did a great show, they just happened to
yeah,
host you, so what's that worth,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. It's like you guys just have the building, and it's like there are great venues, of course. There's great of everything, and there's terrible versions of everything. And my dream is to develop great relationships with the venues, like I have with the Bourbon Room. And it's like these guys really look out for us, and they want us to create the best version of this show. They're almost more excited about it than I am, which I love. And that's the type of venue you want to work with, not someone who's going to fucking squeeze you. I worked at, dude, fuck, whatever, I don't care. I did a show at the Hollywood Improv last week, and that was the worst fucking show I've ever done in my life. I was so upset and so unimpressed with the way that their staff ran the venue, with their tech guy. Their tech guy was the worst dude I've ever worked with in my life. I don't like, when you work at a venue, your job is to help facilitate the artist's needs. I'm
Yep.
used to, as the way I work, when people come up to me as I go, hey, you're on the show tonight? Great. What do you need? How can I make that happen? And then we go to our wonderful venue staff, who we obviously work with respectfully, and we say, hey, we need to do this. How can we make this happen? Here's some ideas I've had. What are your thoughts? But to get met with such resistance from such an uptight fucking cunt of a dickhead. These people were all so up themselves, and like, all we needed was an aux cable to plug from the sound system to the laptop to run sound. And they didn't have this. The premier flagship, you could argue, best comedy club in America, in LA, the Hollywood Improv, doesn't have an aux cable to plug audio from a computer to your sound system. Like, and then they made us seem crazy about it because we had sent this all over, and like we came in and did all this shit. And I'm like, this is a venue that is so unbelievably expensive and offers zero vibe. The room sucks. The configuration is bad. The lights are bad. You could hear the AC, and you have a staff that's unwilling to help you. And this is the fucking pinnacle of comedy. No wonder this shit has problems. There's problems all over. That's the best it gets. And they don't have to change because we give these people power like that. But if it
Yeah.
was up to me, dude, I will never perform another fucking set at the Improv in my life.
Mhm.
Ever. Any of them. None of them. Fuck that place, dude. I was so hurt by these people. And I maybe have performed in 500 to 600 venues in my life. Maybe there's 3 I don't like. Everyone else I'm totally cool with, and I love to work with. And it's like, no wonder you get all these mean, nasty comedians, because they're breeding this horrible, hateful environment. And
Right.
like, again, I don't know if it's clear. I don't have enough bad things to say about the Hollywood Improv. I don't have enough bad things to say about them, man. I wish I remembered their names, but fucking hell, man. It was truly the most one of the most upsetting moments in my professional career was finally performing on that main stage after 12 years of looking at it like I was going to love it, seeing photos of Andy Kaufman on the wall. And then I come and do my act like Jack Tucker, and they tell me that I need to reconsider my act and that I'm not welcome there. And it's like, man, fuck you guys, you stupid idiots, that you didn't understand that I was doing a character. Like that's your
Wow.
fault. I have toilet paper taped to my foot. There's toilet paper coming out of my fucking foot. Obviously I'm joking.
Right.
Like
Right.
I know that wasn't the thing, and this was a different point, but like it's the larger symptom of like, this is why we can't survive, because you've got
No, no,
gatekeeping bullshit like this that just kills any growth.
right. Well, I mean, remember the original question was, what's it like running a business, right? Like, talk about the good, bad, and the ugly. Talk about what you're
This is
learning,
what it's
and
like.
and the reality is, running a business is fucking hard in the best of circumstances. Let alone when you don't
Yeah.
have vendors, partners, suppliers. I'm using business jargon, right? Suppliers, vendors,
Oh,
strategic, whatever. And in this context, the comedy club is a supplier, is a strategic partner, is a vendor. And if you don't have a supply chain, so to speak, I'm going to just double down on the business jargon.
yeah,
If you
double
don't have
down.
a supply chain that is functioning and doing their parts and respecting the other links in the value chain and blah 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 blah, the product's going to suffer on some level. It might be
Yeah,
invisible to the audience, but but it's it's like we said, it's hard enough in the best of circumstances. Why are we making it harder? And show some fucking
I
respect
know,
to your colleagues.
dude. It's also just, it's not hard to be nice. It's really
No, it
so
isn't.
easy.
No, it isn't.
And again, it's like, if we were coming in and asking for the world, I would understand that, not everything can be completed all the time. But I'm like, hey, I showed up 2 hours early to the show because I just wanted to plug in a cable, and I wanted to bring you my own microphone so that I could put my microphone in my mouth and hit stuff around and not break your equipment. That's all I wanted
Right,
to do.
right.
And then we went and bought a cable because theirs wasn't working. And it's just like, it's yeah, going back again to like doubling down on business, on like the business terms of it all. It's like you're you're like you're just getting in the way of the product for no reason, and then you're basically denying the market of things that we have that people want, and then you kill your brand because it's not that good, because you guys aren't growing, and you're
Hmm.
you're getting complacent and it's stale, and you're not open to change. And then it's hard because one of the hardest parts I run into is advocating for myself in a way that doesn't have consequences, because I have to wear the producer's hat and the performer's hat. And while I trust and always listen, I love my manager, and I love my agents too, um, where they're like, let us advocate for you. I also know when it comes to the creative with a show and a venue, nobody will advocate for myself better than me. I
Right,
don't I
right,
don't I don't believe anybody cares as much about me as I do, and nobody knows the show as well as I do. And so
right.
then I have to ride this line of like, I have to be the smiley performer who's like, hey, everything's fine. But also as the producer, I'm like, I need to check my motherfucking sound, and I better make sure I know the levels of all of the wedges that it's coming out of and all the areas it's coming out of, and that light cue is faster, because if that's a second off that way, the joke is ruined, and then we've lost the next 6 setups, and it's not that important to you. And from the naked eye, it doesn't look like it's that big of a deal, but I promise you, from having done the show all of these times, it is that big of a deal. And it's like, those are the split differences that make it different. And I would love to shout out one venue that I work with in particular, is the venue in London called Pleasance, and specifically Ryan Taylor is the comedy programmer there. First off, we're birthday buddies, and we have the same birthday, so we have that kindred spirit of the April 25th boys. But
Mhm.
they have never said no to us. It's always, how can we make this happen? You guys want fire? Great. Here's what we need from you. I need a risk assessment. I need insurance. I need footage of this, and I need a demonstration. And I go, great. Here's everything you need. Here are our availabilities. I've already spoken to him. Here's his availabilities for the next 3 weeks. Which of these dates works so we can come run by and do this, so we can get Westminster to come and clear this ahead of time. We would like to climb up the rigs of the stage. How do we do that? Well, let's bolt in some extra secure, like, piping at the bottom to make sure that this can be more load bearing and you could take on full weight. Awesome. They just, it's not hard. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like people agree to do a job, and then they get upset when you ask them to do their job. And it's like, it is it's again, it's like that. It's that way of like, you then also have to be direct and hold your ground without being a dick. And
Yeah.
that's one that I struggle with because I just get passionate about it. When I see people like this improv guy fucking me around, being like, I don't think this is possible. I'm like, I would be willing to put a gun to my mouth and load it and pull the trigger if it wasn't possible to put an auxiliary headphone jack from my laptop into your set. Like, it's these types
Yeah.
of things. And I
Yeah.
feel like I could go in circles on this forever, but
Well, no, but
it's hard. It's really hard.
I mean, yes, and there's a couple things you're hitting on there. I mean, one is, I mean, well, on a certain level, right? I mean, comedy is supposed to be a yes and play, right? Or improv, so it's like
Yeah.
like a little customer service, please. Yes and. Um,
Yeah.
but but yes, I mean, the fact that you are having to wear all these hats yourself, I mean, it is hard for you to play good cop, bad cop. Sometimes like you need that bad cop, right? If you want to be the good cop, you need the bad cop. If you want to be the bad cop, it's sort of hard to be the good cop sometimes, right? And and it sounds like you do a really good job of navigating that, and also in part because the majority of your venues are wonderful to work with, but there's always a
Yeah.
always an asshole somewhere, and usually it's the one that thinks that they have the right to be an asshole. And
Always.
and so here we are. Well, I tell you who's not an asshole as far as I'm concerned. It's Zach Zucker. Zach Zucker is a fucking
Hey.
comedy genius. Comedy genius.
Oh my
And by the
God.
way, from what I can tell, a very nice human being, a very kind human being. And I'm just stoked, man. I'm stoked for you. I'm stoked for your success. I'm stoked for everything you're doing. I just want to see it explode. I know I just believe it's only a matter of time before these problems and these challenges, these growing pains go away, and you're so big and successful that you'll forget us little people. But I
Oh my
just
God. As if, dude. As if.
and
There's I'll yeah. Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
well, no,
I'll say something at the end.
I'm just so excited for you, man. I mean, you're an inspiration to me. I always, as I said earlier, artists are my favorite people, let alone artists that make me laugh and make me feel good. And coming to Stamptown and seeing you and the crew do what you do just made me, inspired me, and just gave me one of the greatest nights of my year. And I mean that sincerely. And I want to come back and see it again. When are you?
Please.
So what is the schedule moving forward?
So
What's
that's what we're
the?
trying to figure out. So currently, October was kind of like I had like a really intense 3 months of touring. So this is kind of my like quote unquote chill period. And I'm, trying to also just like get people to maybe give us some money to make something.
Yeah.
So while that's all happening, I am my best friend Vigo, who won Britain's Got Talent. We're gonna go perform some NBA halftime shows together at the end of this month, and then
Nice.
I'm going on tour with David Cross, who has become a supporter and a good friend, and just like
Yeah.
really
Love
I
him.
can't say enough nice things about him, man. He's
Yeah.
so incredible, and he's been very kind to me every step of the way. And he asked me to open for him for a few nights, so we're gonna do 3 nights on the road on the West Coast.
Nice.
And then I go back over to New York, and we do a Stamptown out there, maybe a Jack Tucker solo show, because I'm eventually doing a 2-month off Broadway run of my solo show with that character next year, the Soho Playhouse. That's February 29 to April 20. Second mention of 420. Epic read
Woohoo.
time.
Yeah, baby.
And then yeah, baby. And then after New York, what I'm trying to figure out now for November is I'm going to Australia to do some shows in Sydney and Melbourne. I just got to figure out what exactly are my dates and where am I doing the shows. And then for LA, I have a few dates. I'm seeing some venues like Bourbon. I just didn't reach out to them in time, so I have some late shows, but I just don't know if people are going to come to a 10 o'clock show on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Like I would, but I don't know if everybody else would.
I'll come. I'll be there.
Fuck yeah. I mean, I'll do it. And then I was going to go to Australia, and then I come back end of November. I have like a little mini tour with this podcast. These guys, Love It or Leave It, John Lovett's podcast. They're all really nice and kind. And I asked me to go do some dates with them, which I would love to do. And then I'm kind of up in the air again. But I just want to, I will perform. If it was up to me, I'd perform every night if I knew people would come. It's just who's all here. And I think not unfortunately, it's like fortunately because we're like close. I think a lot of these next moves of doing shows is like, okay, are these people that we need to come see it available? And it's not just to get these people to see it, but it's like we do want these people to see it so we can,
Yeah.
do something with it. But regardless, I always say like, I'm never gonna stop doing this. So, we always joke like, if like if you're not down to ride, then like you can get the fuck out the club. Like we're just having a blast. Like I want everyone's welcome here. All we want to do is make stuff whenever we can, and we're passionate and we're blunt and we're like sure of what we want to make and what we want to do. And we're professionally always looking for everybody who can help us make that happen, and people who share the same ethos with us. And then on just a personal human level, we just want to we want to make everyone happy and have people laugh and have a good time. And yeah, hopefully just like, just give people a night that they can remember and be like, oh my God, you gotta, like, I can't even begin to tell you about what happened last night. But like our dream show is like, the funniest thing in the world happens, and then also everyone gets laid and everyone wins the lottery. Like that's my dream night. you know?
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Stamptown, when you go to Stamptown, you're guaranteed to laugh, to get laid, and win the lottery.
And get rich. You're gonna
Get
laugh, you're
rich.
gonna get laid, you're gonna get money. I mean, sign me up. I would go to that show. You're telling me
Fuck
there's a
yeah.
spot and go and I go, that's what I want to be at.
Sold out every night. Sold out every night.
Exactly.
Oh man. Zach Zucker, you're the best, man. And
Oh,
I just
thank
I
you
just
so
am
much.
so grateful for you and everything you're doing. And I look forward to being able to come and partake in the joy that you bring again at some point in the future. And please don't be a stranger. Please come back, and
Oh,
you're welcome anytime.
anytime you want. And anytime you want, I promise I can speak about more focused things. I hope I gave you anything that was usable at all. I'm always like, Jesus, did I just like shit out of my mouth for an hour and 40 minutes? Like, is any of this funny or usable or interesting? But I will do what my manager tells me and just say, hey, thanks for having me.
Look at you. You know what? You know what they call that? Applied learning. You listen, you apply what you hear, and then you execute. Your manager would be so proud. Zach, you're the best. Thanks so much for coming through. You have a beautiful day. What's the
I'm
rest of
right
your
back.
afternoon look like? What are you gonna make today, Zach?
Oh, so in 20 minutes, I'm going to therapy to fix my brain, keep myself sharp, fix those problems, and get have them noodle around in there so I can function for another week.
Nice.
And then I got a little commercial audition just moments ago or about an hour ago, so I'll take a look at that. And then I was gonna hit a dance class at 5 o'clock and just keep pushing myself and getting out of my comfort zone. And it would be taking a new fundamentals class with a teacher I haven't taken before. So, always a perfect opportunity to go make a fool of yourself in front of a bunch of talented, hot, swaggy, sexy individuals, and
So it's
then
a
feel
so
bad
it's
about
a
it on the whole.
so it's a pole dancing class. Is that what you're doing? You're learning pole dancing?
This one is not a pole dancing class. This one's just like a fundamentals, like grooves and kind of like basics hip hop class. But
Got it.
I've taken pole, I've taken heels, I've taken some jazz, some fusion, or some like jazz funk fusion. But I'm just trying to get everything. I'm taking ballet. Like I bought some tap shoes. I'm going for
I
it.
I love it. Well, I want to see you on the pole. I'll come make it rain. I'll just be like, yeah, Zach.
Please, please. Look, the Bourbon Room has polls, and you know that I'm slowly but surely working my way up to it. I just have to work through this thing, this like chronic problem I have, which is a complete lack of strength and flexibility in my hips and core. But once I work
You and me
that
both.
out,
You and me both.
yeah, and a threshold for pain for holding my body weight up. So once I learn all of that,
Yeah,
and also get way stronger, you better believe I'll be
you're
on
on
that
it.
pole.
You'll be all over it.
I'm on. I'm on. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
What am I doing? So I will be work. So Wednesday is my sort of production day. I've done, obviously we've chatted. I chatted with another artist earlier. So today I'll sort of get focused on some of the intros and work on some of that stuff.
Nice.
I also have some some work from yesterday that didn't get done. We're producing
Yeah.
a hip hop song. So the little, maybe too much information. I don't know if you're familiar with Designer Con, but Designer Con is um, the world's largest convention of art toys, designer toys, and like pop culture memorabilia and stuff. And so
Oh wow.
we used to produce. You would dig it. I mean, I think you would. It's in Anaheim every year. It's been going on for about 18, 19 years. My buddy produces it, and we used to
Oh
produce it together.
shit.
But
Yeah, I'm taking a look at this right now.
yeah, it's really cool. Designer Con. And so we have a booth there every year. And kind of what's fun for people that like to collect these art toys and designer toys and vinyl toys and whatever, brands like Kid Robot and whatever. But
Yeah.
they so there's all these exclusive drops, right? So like an artist will design a toy and they'll make 100 of them, and you drop them there, and they're collector's items and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So this year we were trying to decide what we wanted to drop. And so for all kinds of reasons I won't bore you with, we decided to actually, rather than dropping a toy or something 3D, we would drop a song,
Oh
music. We
hell
drop music. And so a couple of my colleagues are big hip hop heads, born and raised Angelino, and so what we realized was that there really isn't a holiday hip hop song that celebrates the holidays in LA. And so we're producing this track, working with some OG LA MCs that I won't mention because I want to, the big reveal and whatnot. So anyway, so it's very
no, I
exciting.
can't wait to talk to you about it
The
later.
producer, yeah,
Yeah, that's huge.
my boy Dan Ubik, sent me the track over with the beats yesterday, and they sound amazing. And so I have some work to do on that today. So anyway, long answer to a short question, but we're lucky people, you and me, Zach. We get to make art.
That's the truth. That's the truth right there. Well, I can't wait to keep making some art together.
I look forward to it, my friend. And but in the meantime, go get your head straight. Go get that commercial audition. Go be you, and enjoy your best life, my friend. Thanks for coming through.
Dude, you rock. Thank you so much. We'll chat soon, and I'm sure we'll hang out outside of this in LA before the next show, anyways.
Count on it. All right, my friend. We'll talk. Peace.
See ya. Thanks, brother.